Hello everyone, I'm your Manpasand RJ Ira coming to you live on Facebook today on a very special occasion of the Orange Day 2025 Symposium organized by Initiatives for Women in Need. Thank you Madhumita Iyengar, the chair of IWiN, for inviting Radio Manpasand of this symposium. Have you ever felt unseen, unheard, or overlooked because of your culture, accent, or background? Then you are not alone. This symposium is just perfect for you. Today, we are participating with the live discussions, panel discussion, interactive session, and a flower decoration workshop, followed by an Indian buffet lunch. Let's go inside and enjoy the Orange Day Symposium organized by IWiN only on Radio Manpasand with RJ Ira. Let's go.
Because of their particular background, could be language, could be age, could be, and the culture and heritage, of course. So that's where the Orange Day, which is a United Nations campaign, which is a 16 days activism period starting from 25th of November to 10th of December. This 16 days, they encourage everyone, individual, a group, or the corporates or organizations to say no to violence against women and girls. And this year, so every year we pick up a theme, and this year our theme is Invisible No More, Confronting Racism and Building Resilience. So I think this will resonate to most of the migrants and people coming from multicultural backgrounds. In some way or other, we have experienced this particular behavior or particular, it could be, I will not call it social behavior. I was going to use the word, but I don't think that's appropriate because some people do it from perceptions. It's the perception-based behavior. So anyway, I would not delve into this further because this is an area for the experts, and that's why we have the panel discussion with experts, and you will hear from them. And also we have a very, very internationally known global scholar, Professor Kuntala Lahiri-Dutt among us. I'm very, very fortunate that she has agreed to come. She is a very busy person, also very polite, and doesn't want to share her achievements. But I would like to our MC to introduce her, and then you will know that how fortunate we are to have her here with us today. But I would like to congratulate you personally, Kuntaladi, for your achievements. And as usual, you have hidden the very fact that very recently you got another international award as a feminist geography. So you know why she is here today. Now, I will not say further, and in spite of having this script, as usual, I have not used the script. So I think that I will stop here, otherwise it will just keep going. But I would just like to say only one thing. One is that we have, you will see the survey in front of your table. This is very important for us because we are trying to develop a database which is absolutely doesn't exist. And that's where and this is all anonymous, so your personal information, identity, or whatever responses you provide there, that's not going to be shared with any third party. So it will be only used for developing the database. And that database we will share with organizations and others. So your privacy is totally maintained. So don't worry, it's a very safe environment today here. Whatever we discuss, whatever we do, it's not going to go out of this room. So we want to make sure that you all feel very safe and supported. And at any point, if you feel that, because particularly in the panel discussions, probably some of the issues may trigger or you may feel uncomfortable, you please feel free to come and talk with me or MC or Rafi is there, and Zakia. Zakia is also there. So you feel free to approach, or you can just take some time out outside this room. So, and we are happy to support you. So I would just finish with a collective call to action that Orange Day is not symbolic, it's a movement. Every one of us in this room has power to call out harmful behavior, to support survivors with compassion, to challenge discriminatory systems, and to build a culture where women no longer have to fight for visibility. And that's why we are saying invisible no more. Let us commit to creating a world where every woman and girl, and I would say everyone, it's male, because everyone is subjected to discrimination and racism. No matter her race or culture or background, can live with safety, dignity, and hope. And to finish that, I would also invite you to look at these beautiful posters made by girls and women from Afghanistan, who actually, at this point of time when we are doing this session, they are so committed, they study in hiding, So there is a virtual school of Australia in Adelaide, and they run that school for those women. So they know that they can be abused, they can be killed at any point of time if they are found out, but still they study. And please look at these paintings they have done, which shows their state of mind. And we have from IWiN, we are supporting some of these girls. So I would invite you to judge the paintings. There are 28 paintings. So what you need to do is that there will be poster in front of you. So just any two. Just pick up any two in your poster, and this is the whiteboard there. Probably I would request MC to write that painting, that painting competition, something like that there. So you can just put your post notes on that whiteboard. Whichever two you find that most appealing to you for whatever reason it is. And there will be other activities also after the lunch, and we will explain it as we go. So thank you. So take your time. We will have half an hour break for lunch, so that then you can take a look also. Okay, thank you. And before, I actually forgot. I must, I know that MC has recognized all our partners, but I want to make a special mention of two of our long-standing partner for Orange Day. It's Zakia from Multicultural Hub, and Ira Iyengar, who has not yet made it. I'm sure he is stuck in this epic traffic. So the SAFACT and Multicultural Hub had been with IWiN from the very beginning, supporting this Orange Day. So Zakia, thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iyengar. I think you've actually foreshadowed a lot of what I'm going to talk about, overlapped a lot of things I already said. So I am going to move forward to introducing our keynote speaker for today, Emeritus Professor Kuntala Lahiri-Dutt, AO, so that's really cool. She's a globally renowned scholar, as mentioned, specifically from the Crawford School of Public Policy at the ANU. And she's got a lot of research work about gender and development, the environment, natural resource management, which is, I think, really important in this current climate where, you know, things aren't going well in terms of how we work with our environment and the nature around us. Her work transforms our understanding of gender, livelihoods, and resource governance, so how we actually look after the amazing resources that we are lucky to have. And her research traverses extractive industries, water politics, agrarian transitions, and especially illuminates the lived realities of marginalized communities in the global south, who I would argue are the most impacted by these exploitative practices. And she's published numerous articles and several books, such as Dancing with the River, which talks about life on the shifting chars. I'm gonna just say life around the Gunga, the floodplains in the Gunga. And she's actually been appointed an officer of the Order of Australia in 2024, so last year. And she got a new award this year, which was the 2025 Jan Monk Service Award, instituted by the Feminist Geography Specialty Group within the American Association of Geographers, specifically in acknowledgement of her pioneering contributions, so new groundbreaking research into feminist geography. I'll have to talk to you later because I'm covering geography with my students right now in school. And so again, congratulations from IWiN. Dr. Iyengar's already giving congratulations. I think us as a crowd, we should all also give our congratulations. You are an inspiration, and we're super lucky to have you here today to talk about, your experiences and everything you know. So please welcome Professor Lahiri-Dutt. Sorry, I'm mixing titles up, to the stage with a big round of applause. Professor, Doctor, so many accomplished women here. I can't keep track of it all.
But she is special.
She is special. You're special.
She has got the highest civilian award.
Thank you, Manaswini, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you, Dr. Iyengar, for inviting me here today, and thank you to everyone for coming to listen to me and to be here on this wet and rainy day and on a weekend, leaving aside everything. So and I want to extend a special welcome and thank you for coming to the men. Few handful of men who are in this room. Thank you for taking your time to come here. Really appreciate that. And when I use the word feminist, it's immediately a lot of people kind of shrink, think that feminist is a bad word. But if you believe in that what Dr. Iyengar said, that everyone has equal rights, everyone has the right to be safe, have a dignified life, and have hope for a better future, then you can be a feminist. Anybody can be a feminist. So, welcome to everyone to this gathering. I know listening to one person can be very boring sometimes, so I will keep my, stay to the point, keep my talk very short, and I'll try to make it sweet. Maybe it might get a little bitter, but 6 points I have. First point is that Australia's foundation is stained by systematic racism. So that's the first point. We're living in a country where the first peoples were tortured, were eliminated, they were killed, and that colonial past of this country for the Aboriginal people is not just history, it's a story of oppression and torture. There are other stories as well. There's 62,000 South Sea Islanders were imported into Australia in 1860s to work in the sugar plantations in Queensland, and they were 20% of them died within a year because they were not even treated as well as the slaves in the cotton plantations in America were treated. Because in cotton plantations, the slaves had to be bought. You had to pay, the owners had to pay a price. These people were just stolen out of their lands and brought in here to work in the sugar plantations. So when we talk about racism, now that is racism. That is systematically ingrained within this country. But I'd also talk about racism of a little bit. Let's look into that a little bit more deeply. Harriet Jacobs is a slave woman in America who fled the plantations, and she lived for 7 years in a garret, in an underground where chicken and all animals live. In a garret, she hid there, and eventually she was able to escape that garret and go to New York, where she led the freedom movement for the slaves in America. So now I would say that now that's really racism. That kind of racism doesn't happen today. So what are we talking about? We are not talking about that kind of racism. So when we talk about racism as a system of power, that and not only just power but also prejudice. So today's racism is that system of power and prejudice that results in the marginalization of certain kinds of people or a person based on it could be their race, it could be their ethnicity, color, descent, or national origin. For that. So racism is not only about hatred of a certain people, it is also about power. How does it work? It works through core beliefs about, the ideologies about the hierarchical position of races, and that is again coming to Australia, that's ingrained within Australia through White Australia policy, and we are still paying the price of that policy, although technically that policy no longer exists. So let us come to that point then. How is racism expressed today? How are the vestiges of racism expressed today in Australian society? I would say that there's a lot of, and I'm always focusing on women, although explicitly, maybe I'm not mentioning women so much, but interpersonal interactions, it could be racist slurs, it could be microaggressions, and so on. We have all experienced them in one way or the other, in buses, in public transport, in public spaces, in clubs. Just the lack of awareness or just the slight slur. So those sorts of microaggressions. But racism can be also institutionalized. And I'm looking at SAGE here, Science and Gender Equity. Those sorts of programs are trying today to eliminate the racism that is institutional. Within institutions like, large institutions, offices, ANU, for example, systematically they have been hiring women in leadership positions and so on to create that sense that that we do not encourage racism. But then there are structural, vestiges of racism as well, which is most apparent in disparities in wealth. For example, I was reading a book by Thomas Piketty recently, and he was talking about, he is a very famous left-leaning economist, and and he's talking about how there should be a generational wealth tax. You know, many first generation immigrants don't have that. They're building from scratch. They don't inherit. And so those sorts of things. So disparities in wealth is a big issue in racism today. I would also say a lot of the racism is internalized. You know, I want to look at myself as well, you know, and I come from a country where dark skin is looked down at, you know, fair skin is good, and many women internalize it. Women use skin lightening creams so that they can, you know, look fairer. And that is common throughout Asia now, no longer just in India. So there is systematic things that occur outside our, you know, in the external world, but they again come inside us as well. I would talk a little bit about a story that happened to me very recently. I went to Melbourne and on the way back to the airport, I was, you know, in a taxi. I was listening to Zoran Mamdani's talk because I was so excited about Mamdani. Those of you who do not know about him, he is the new mayor-elect of New York. And I was listening to his talk, and I said that, can you please lower the radio? I just want to listen to his talk. And he said, oh, who's he? And he was from Africa, Ethiopia, taxi driver. I picked up a conversation, and he listened to Mamdani, and he was feeling very excited. And I said, oh, he's wonderful, he should win, you know, and all that. So I picked up a conversation with him, and I said, so where are you from, you know, and all that. He said he's from Ethiopia. Conversation was going really well. And then he said he's the father of 4 daughters. His wife doesn't work, and his daughters go to a private school. He's renting a house, and his daughters go to a private school. And I said that, why do you send your daughters to private school? You know, those who are school-going age. And he said that's because I don't, you know, if they go to the school, they'll learn all this about gender, you know, and I don't want them, you know, man becomes a woman and woman becomes a man. I don't want them to learn that. And I thought that was a shock to my system as well. I would say that I learned about people and all the things that we talk about, what systemic racism is and how they are internalized and how we discriminate against each other as well. You know, all my love that I was feeling towards this guy and the happy conversation that we were having kind of got a jolt at that moment when, so yes, I would say that that's their personal faith, personal belief, and all that. So it's a very complicated domain. So there is this. Then there is the question, the point that I wanted to talk about is, then what can we do? You know, if this is the level of complication around our identities, what can we do? And I am a big follower of Senator Mehreen Faruqi. She is this Greens senator, but of Pakistani origin, and she has been the subject of insults and trolls and attacks by people like Senator Pauline Hanson continuously. And you know what she does is, Mehreen Faruqi, she calls it out. She calls it out not only in the parliament, in her social media, everywhere. Call it out. And she also asks other people not to just be bystanders, not to just watch it and tolerate it and, oh, it's not my business. and she encourages other people to come and take part in it and protect her. She also is very closely aligned with the Aboriginal communities, First Nations people, who are equally marginalized in a different way, maybe in different way, in different times of history, but also marginalized as well. I would also talk about, a little bit of need of cleansing our own minds. We often come from cultures that are highly hierarchical in nature, discriminatory. I come from a country where the reality of caste is a big factor. Some people are born into a caste and they can never change their caste and so on. So there is this need as well. And now I am coming to my last point. I really like it that our Governor General is a female now, and she is not a female, not like upper class, like previous example of one Governor General, but she is this grounded community activist, Sam Austin. She says that multiculturalism is the breathing heart of Australia. Makes me feel very proud of living in this country. I was just talking to Paula here and saying that I wasn't born here, but I will die here. So people talk about the country of birth. It's the country of mine, where my remains will remain and my progeny will remain here. So it's also my land, it's also my country. It's in my interest to make sure that multiculturalism works. Here, I feel that there is a lack of understanding in mainstream population, and people like Madhumita, Dr. Iyengar, and organizations like IWiN are working towards making the invisible women of marginalized communities more visible. That's for sure. But there is a great lack of understanding. I was listening to a book that has recently been published by a professor, Julian Schultz, The Idea of Australia. And she was talking about, obviously, how the idea of Australia was created, and Aboriginals were in conflict with white Australian immigrants. And the whole book was about that. Today's idea of Australia is very different. And and one person stood up and talked about the Villovilla refugee family and how the whole community supported that refugee family. Now hang on, asylum seekers, refugees are visible minorities, but I am too. I came out here with a job at the ANU. I wasn't an asylum seeker. I wasn't a refugee, and I came. You cannot call me an economic migrant, because I came out here with a job. Australia wanted me. So how do you then put all of us within that whole, that ghastly, I create an acronym that called, culturally and linguistically diverse women called communities. I think there's a need for us to look at early migrants, European migrants, East European migrants, Anglo-Indians, Chinese gardeners who came and started gardening in and Afghan cameliers and so on. So early migrants in Australia, besides European migrants, the refugees, asylum seekers, and also recent migrants, they're all different communities, and they have come under different contexts, have very different interests, and so on. So there's a great need within the the whole multicultural awareness to recognize this diversity. So I'm coming to an end of my 6 points, as I say. So why is this so important? And I'm so happy that Dr. Iyengar has, on her own initiative with the support of various other groups, published this absolutely humongous, fantastic document on how women experience racism in ACT and different places. It's very important today to talk about racism, to talk about women's place and creating the safe space for everyone because of the particular global scenario today. Especially in America with Trump coming into power, we are seeing an attack on DEI, what is called DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion initiatives. First attack by Trump was on DEI. So there is a possibility that if we do not stand up against things like that, this will happen here. And it did actually. On 31st of August, throughout Australia, there was protests against immigration. There was protests, and some of them were particularly targeted against Indians. And I think by Indians, somebody from Sri Lanka, somebody from Nepal or Bangladesh would all be, it was like the 80s Pakis in UK. Everybody was a Paki who was brown in skin. So I think here also there was an expressed anger against these brown-skinned people as well. So how do we deal with that? How do we stop that and uproot these sorts of initiatives at the very beginning? It's for all of us. It's a very important task for us, something for all of us to do, but at the same time, we are not alone. We cannot do this alone. We can do little bits, but it's the collaboration, it's coming together, and all of us, and men and women working together would be able to create that change, That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to talk about this sensitive issue. And I love you all.
Alright, so for conclusion, I think I have to say, for every woman deserves to be seen, every voice deserves to be heard, every story deserves to be respected. And when we start together, and when we come together from silence to strength, from exclusion to empowerment, and we are invisible no more. Okay, so it's time to conclude the Facebook Live session. This is RJ Ira, and you are watching Radio Manpasand only on पूरा तड़का लगा के. तब तक के लिए बाय बाय.